Jurors will get the weekend to think about how much jail time, if any, Aaron Dean will spend for killing a Tatiana Jefferson. Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes. It's 9 o'clock. Today, jury members heard testimony in the sentencing phase of his trial. That included testimony from the psychologist who did an assessment on Dean before he was hired as a police officer. That psychologist said Dean was not fit to be a cop. We also heard from Dean's family, who worked to portray him as a man full of compassion. Fox 4's Macy Jenkins has the details on that, plus really this kind of bizarre moment that played out in the courtroom. Macy?
Hi, Heather. Well, listen, this trial has proven to not only be emotionally charged, but unpredictable. From the surprisingly short amount of time the prosecution spent on presenting their case, from the 4-day break to the 4-day break in the trial, and then to Dean taking the stand and testifying in his own defense. And now we have the sentencing phase. The jury did not come to a start to deliberate today. Rather, they will pick that up on Monday, pushing this trial into a third week.
Good morning. Both sides ready for the jury?
State's ready, Your Honor.
After 6 days of testimony and 12 combined hours of deliberation, the jury in Aaron Dean's murder trial is not finished just yet. Jurors still have to decide Dean's sentence after finding him guilty of manslaughter in the 2019 death of a Tatiana Jefferson. On Friday, jurors heard very personal testimony focused on two people, Aaron Dean.
Aaron didn't break rules or anything as a young person or a teenager.
And a Tatiana Jefferson.
I was the aunt that bought things. Tay was the aunt that played with the things that I bought.
For the first time since the trial began, Aaron Dean sat in the courtroom as an inmate, somewhat emotional just before the proceedings began. With Dean facing 2 to 20 years behind bars, the prosecution called a forensic psychologist to the stand, who conducted personality testing with Dean in 2017 prior to his hire as a police officer.
My conclusion was that he was not psychologically suitable to serve as a police officer.
And why is that?
Because the results had suggested that he had a narcissistic personality style that would inhibit his judgment, decision-making, interpersonal abilities, and would make him more likely to engage in behaviors that could put himself and others at risk.
Dean would later appeal that assessment and passed a different one, ultimately joining the Fort Worth Police Department. The state also called a woman who filed a police report against Dean 18 years ago. She says he groped her.
He pulled his hand away. He asked me not to tell anyone what had happened, and I grabbed my bag and I left the room.
Jefferson's brother Adaria's car took the stand, describing the trip his sisters took to visit him while he was stationed in the U.S. Navy in San Diego.
We took a cruise on the water, so the naval base.
How long were they out there?
I said about a week, sir.
Did Tatiana enjoy it?
Every bit of it.
Was that one of the last times you saw Tatiana?
That was the last time I saw my sister.
Dean's defense team called 7 character witnesses, among them his church members, his mother, and 2 of his siblings.
He's smart. He's a hard worker. He definitely wants to help people, and he's very faithful in carrying out his responsibilities.
Prosecutors questioned Dean's sister, Alyssa Dean, an Arlington police officer, about her brother's assessment of his own police work during his testimony.
You heard him grade himself as far as his performance out there, right?
I did.
And he gave himself a B? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Sorry, it's just because she has to take it down.
But yes.
And the grade that he gave, the B grade, do you feel like that's a humble grade to give when a life is lost?
I think it is very hard to give a grade when you're not given a rubric to grade by.
On Thursday, as Dean's family members left the courthouse, they were followed by a group of people shouting obscenities in their direction. Dean's mother on the stand was questioned about what happened.
Was it a tense situation?
Yes.
Were those people being kind to you?
No.
Did you feel safe?
Only because there were a lot of sheriff's deputies around.
Manuel Mata is believed to have been among the group yelling. He was called to the stand to be sworn in as a witness.
You are on bond on some cases, is that correct? Those bonds are being declared insufficient, Sheriff.
His refusal grounds for the judge to have him removed from court and his bond revoked in an unrelated case. Now, both sides rested their case at 3:30 this afternoon, but Judge Gallagher adjourned court for the day. Now, he did not make an explanation public to the media, but he would have, if the jury had started those deliberations, he likely would have had to sequester them into the weekend because they likely wouldn't have finished in time. By pushing those deliberations to Monday, he avoids that, likely taking into consideration the fact that this is the last weekend before Christmas, and winter break has begun for many children who are still in school. Now the sentencing phase continues on Monday morning.